So today's video is about someone who emailed me and asked me to do their chart. So I'm going to look at this woman's chart. I'm going to look at her solar return and two of her lunar returns. If you want me to do this for your chart, email me at domychart@gmail.com. Include your exact birth time from your birth certificate, your birth date, and your birthplace. I can also give you a fake name like I'm doing with this woman, so the public isn't going to know who you are. But I'm more than happy to make a video of your astrology. So looking at this chart, we're going to say that this woman's name is Lucy, and she asked me about her finances, relationships, and her home. So we're going to look at her birth chart first, and then we'll look at her solar return and lunar returns. So the first thing we want to look at is Venus in the 7th house, and it's making two aspects, both semi-squares to Mercury and the Sun. And typically this shows someone who would work well in a group, work well with others. This is not someone who would work independently, owning your own business or something like that. We also want to look at the 2nd house cusp at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. We can see Uranus at 16 degrees of Libra in the 11th house, making a sextile to that. And also Mercury and the Sun again are trining that house cusp. So this is all very good. This is showing someone who can really adapt and work hard with the planets in Aries in the 5th house. A lot of fire there. Someone who's going to work really hard and enjoys working hard. So next we want to look at the moon, and you can see the moon in the 12th house in Scorpio. This is a tough placement. The moon is going to tell us about this person's childhood, and it's also going to tell us about Lucy's home life at the present when we get to her solar and lunar returns. But in this chart, you can see Mars and Saturn making the inconjunct to the moon. This is really tough. Mars is always going to show anger and or violence in the home, while Saturn is going to tell us about a parent who was unemotional or difficult to get along with. Also, Uranus in the 11th house, making a 15-degree aspect. This is a missing parent or a parent that's just very uninvolved in Lucy's childhood. Also, you can see Jupiter in the 2nd house. It's making a sextile to the moon. This is a fortunate, good aspect. It shows someone who grew up in a home, and at least one of the parents taught Lucy politics, religion, sort of the higher interests that she has today. And also we want to look at the 4th house cusp, which is at 26 degrees of Aquarius. You can see the Sun and Mercury both making a semi-square to this house cusp. This confirms what we have already talked about, the Mars energy of Aries, anger in the home. And then lastly, we want to look at relationships. So we want to look at the planet Compania. You can see it up in the 9th house at 20 degrees of Cancer. The one aspect that's being made to Compania is coming from Uranus, and it's a square. This is difficult. It shows partners who you don't see things eye to eye, someone who's very different from you in certain ways. So we want to look at Lucy's solar return. It's going to last from March of 2024, this year, until March of 2025. Obviously a one-year cycle. We want to start by looking at Venus. Venus is in the 1st house at 24 degrees of Pisces. This planet is very well aspected. You can see the square coming from the moon in the 10th house in Sagittarius. This is great because it's coming from the 10th house. That's showing someone who wants to work and has a lot of opportunity to work. Companion in the 5th house, trining Venus. Also Uranus at 20 degrees of Taurus, sextiling Venus, all very, very good. Next, we want to look at the rulers of Venus, and the 1st house would be ruled by Mars. Mars is not making aspects in this chart. It's very unaspected. So we're just going to move to the planet Neptune, which rules Pisces. And Neptune is doing some good things here. You can see Neptune making a sextile to Pluto up in the 11th house. It's conjunct Venus, which are both very good aspects. Neptune is making a 15-degree aspect to Saturn. So this is clearly saying Lucy, she's got a lot of opportunity, but she's going to work very hard. The Saturn aspect is making that very clear. So we also want to look at Lucy's home life, and so we want to look at the moon. You can see the moon up in the 10th house in Sagittarius. The moon doesn't really like being in the 10th house, but fortunately, Venus is squaring the moon, and this is all very good. Venus loves being in Pisces, and also the square is just telling us there's going to be happiness in the home in terms of this aspect. The problem with the moon is that it's making an inconjunct to both Uranus and Campania. This is telling us about coming changes in regards to the home. It might mean moving, it might mean something else, but it's not all that bad. Whatever does happen, there will be good results from it. It's just time to change, that's all. And the Venus aspect is telling us that. Also, we want to look at the fact that the moon is in the 10th house, which is ruled by Saturn. We've already talked about how Neptune is making a difficult aspect to Saturn. This is telling us about uncertainty. So there will be a period of time during this year, and this will show up in the lunar cycles, when there will just be unknown. There's questions and no answers in regards to the home. Also, Mercury is making a 45-degree semi-square to Saturn. This is telling us about worry, lots of worry. And because it's in the sign of Aries, it just makes it worse. Jupiter is making a sextile to Saturn. This is actually very fortunate, very good. It means there's opportunity in some way in regards to home life. And that could mean opportunity to move, which would be good. It's also an opportunity to make changes in the home in some way that are positive, maybe a roommate or something like that. Also, we want to look at the 4th house cusp. This is 19 degrees of Gemini, as you can see. It's being opposed by the moon up in the 10th house. This is kind of 50-50. It's positive because it's in the sign of Sagittarius. Again, that's that opportunity that I just talked about, but it's also receiving the 10th house energy, which is Saturn, and that's sad. Just a situation that isn't going to be good. And then both Uranus and Campania are making the 30-degree aspect to this 4th house cusp. Again, coming changes. I can't tell you exactly what the changes are. On top of that, Venus is squaring the 4th house cusp. This leads to happiness in the home. This is a really good aspect. So that was the solar cycle, which lasts 1 year. I talked about a lot of different things happening to Lucy during that 1 year period. How do we know when those things are going to happen? Well, we want to look at the lunar cycles. They last about a month. What you're looking at right now is Lucy's current lunar cycle, which began back on April 23rd. It goes till May 20th, so there's just a few days left. So we're going to start with the planet Venus in Aries in the 8th house. You can see that it's being squared by Campania and Ceres. This is telling us about self-criticism, looking inward and finding things wrong with yourself. It's a tough one. It's a tough lunar period because of this aspect. Venus, on the other hand, is making some good aspects. It's making a semi-sextile or a 30-degree aspect to both Jupiter and Uranus in the 9th house. That means if during this period this person goes and looks for opportunity, looks for a job, they're going to be pleasantly surprised at what they find. Also, Mars is forming a 30-degree aspect to Venus as well. This is that desire to work. And because of this, the squares from Ceres and Campania, it's making it difficult for that to operate and happen. So in terms of relationships, we want to look at the planet Campania. It's in the 10th house in Cancer. The problem here is that it's opposing Ceres, and that's that self-criticism, the looking inward and finding things wrong with yourself. Normally, Venus squaring Campania would be really good. The problem here is that the Ceres kind of negates that. Also, Compania is making a sextile to Jupiter and Uranus. This is telling it's possibly time for change. I don't know what kind of change. Mars making a trine to Compania is telling us about the desire for a relationship. So I'm not sure what all that means, but it's really a mixed bag. Also, Compania is in the sign of Cancer, so we want to look at the moon. The moon is opposing the sun. The sun is in the 8th house. This is tough. This is difficult. It means what you want isn't there for you right now. The same thing with Pluto squaring the moon from the 5th house. Really want something to happen that's just not happening in this cycle. It's very disappointing. Also, Saturn at 15 degrees of Pisces is making the 30-degree aspect to Mercury. This is the preoccupation, the thinking, the cycling of repetitive thoughts about something that you can't change. And then we want to look at the moon for a person's home life. The moon is in the 2nd house. It's opposing the sun in the 8th house. Really tough because what you want just isn't there right now. And then also Pluto again is squaring the moon. This is also really tough. The moon is in the sign of Scorpio, so we want to look at Vader. You can see it there at 1 degree of Pisces in the 6th house. It's forming that 15-degree aspect with Saturn. Disappointment. It's just sadness right now. It's a tough aspect to have. Also, Vader is forming a 30-degree aspect with Pluto, and it goes back to what we were saying before. Vader and Pluto are kind of common planets, and it's just showing that whatever you want is being blocked right now. So now we're going to go over the upcoming lunar cycle, which occurs on May 20th. We're going to start by looking at the planet Venus in the 4th house in Taurus. It's sort of in its home when it's in Taurus. Also, you can see the sextile coming from Neptune in the 2nd house. This is all very good in terms of earning money. And also because Venus is in the 4th house, we want to look at the moon. The moon is making a trine to the planet Vader. That's motivation. That's a desire to go out and earn a living. So I'm not sure exactly what all this means, but whether it's your current job or a new one, I don't really know. Also, Mercury in the 3rd house making a sextile to the 2nd house cusp. This is very good. It shows you out there doing something, probably looking for a job, maybe making a change of some sort. But you're definitely going to be leaving the house and doing something that's leading to an income. Next, we want to look at relationships, which is Compania. It's there in the 6th house. It's kind of the same thing as what we saw in the last cycle, the looking inward and the inward criticism. Do your best to get through this month in this area because it's tough, it's difficult. With Uranus making a positive aspect to both Compania and Ceres, this is telling us you're going to make positive strides in developing your independence. Next, we want to look at the moon in the 9th house in Scorpio. The moon really likes being in the 9th house, a great place for it. Also, the moon is trining Vader in the 1st house. This is really strong. This is a really strong aspect. It's telling us about being motivated. So whatever goals you have surrounding your home, you're going to make strides this month to fix that problem, whatever that problem is. Also, we want to look at the rulers of Scorpio and the 9th house. You can see Jupiter in the 4th house. You can see Vader, the ruler of Scorpio, in the 1st house. These two planets are squaring. This is actually very good. If you are ever going to accomplish something and to reach a goal, this is the cycle to do it in regards to your home. So Lucy, I hope this information helped you in some way, and we can definitely look at future lunar cycles for this year as well. So that's our video for today. Thanks for watching.